This is Art 157, lecture on cinematics, and before I go through this, I just want to let you know that this is based on an existing tutorial. Basically, I've kind of simplified it and tweaked it a little, but it's actually from Mastering Unreal Technology, just to give credit where credit's due. And this is using the basic sample level that's slightly modified. Okay, so first thing, we got this level, and it looks pretty simplistic, and that's because at this point the only thing that we're seeing are brushes. Now if we go into View, Browser Window, and open up Layers, which we've talked about a little, you'll see that there's actually several different layers. There's the lights, which are on their own layer. There's a work group, which is the stuff that we're actually going to be using and animating. And then there's a none, and that's actually the one that we want to make sure is visible because when we create new objects. And then when we actually go to play a game, all this will get turned on anyway, but those are all the level assets, which at this point we don't need at all. So, and predominantly those are static meshes. So we'll make sure that that's highlighted, and the first thing we're going to do is in the top view, we want to reposition and resize the builder brush because we're going to create a special volume that's going to enable us to trigger our cinematic. So let me zoom in a little here and see if we can get this kind of set up. And basically all I'm doing is I'm highlighting this area, this platform, and you're not going to see it until I move it up here. But at this point you can see that now we have this area that basically whenever we go in this area we're going to create a trigger volume which will trigger the cinematic. So now that that's positioned, right click, do trigger volume, and we can resize the builder brush or hide it. So if we do 111, which, there we go, build, okay, so now that's gone and we don't have to worry about it, and we can actually choose this trigger volume that we just created. So like I said, anytime someone goes in this, it'll fire. Now in order to get this to do something, we need to open the cinematic and right click, and there's pre-made new events using trigger volume, and the one that we want is touch. So basically anytime that it gets touched, we want to fire and have something happen. So at this point we're basically saying touch, and now we need it to actually do something. What we're going to do is we need to turn the cinematic on and off. So we're going to go New Action Toggle, and this one's called Cinematic Mode, so that's going to go on and off. So when this is touched, we're going to enable the cinematic mode, which is going to take place. And we have to say who this is for, and that's what the target is. So if we come in with variables and do player, and it says all players target, that basically means that anyone that's playing this game, when they fire this, they will basically trigger the cinematic and see what's happening. Now for multiplayers, you have to be a little careful how your cinematics are created if you use them at all, but for individual players and individual games it's okay. So we have that set up, and we added the player. And the one thing we can do, and we'll go have to adjust this a little, but if you hold down Control and Alt and use a border select, you can add a thing called a comment, and you can see it basically creates a box. And this is a good way if you have something complicated with lots of kismet to organize everything. And then the object comment is basically we can do cinematic 1. And obviously you can make it as big or small if you want, but now we have some position and some space to locate everything. Now at this point, next thing we want to do is not only do we want to go into cinematic mode, and at this point if we do cinematic mode, it's just going to enable it and suspend our ability to use the controls. Next thing we need to do is we need to actually do something, and all that's controlled through matinee. So if you kind of forget cinematic, matinee is a type of cinema movie, so you can see where the reference is for the name and those types of things. And we want to say when we're touched, not only do we go into cinematic mode, which disables stuff, but we also want to play the cinematic, and then when the cinematic is done, we want to disable or go out of this mode. So you can see that we're going, when we touch this volume, we turn on the cinematic mode, which disables everything, and when we do that, we also want to play this matinee, which is what we'll spend most of our time focusing on. And when the matinee is done playing, it will disable the cinematic mode and we go back to where we are. So first thing we're going to animate is a camera, because cinematics usually have a custom camera that's not part of the actual player itself. So if we go into let's pull up the browser, actor classes, there's a camera actor, and we'll just drag it into the scene. And the camera actor, generally we want to put it at the beginning of this ramp, because the idea is there's steps here, so when we go up the steps, the first thing that'll happen is we'll fire the camera. Now the other thing that's off with the camera is right now it's facing in the wrong direction, so we want to rotate it 180 degrees. And we also want to make sure that it's at the proper height, and you'll see there's a bot right here, and we want to ideally make sure that the camera is at the eye level of the bot, because we're actually going to zoom in to the bot for the near the end of the cinematic. So at this point we have our camera in place, and what we need to do is we need to do a couple things. This all goes back to actually controlling the matinee. So make sure you have your camera selected, double click, and we're actually going to go into the matinee editor, and you can see that it's activated now. And we want to go in and we want to add two things. We want to add a camera group, which right click, add new camera group. We'll just call this camera 1, assuming you had multiple cameras. And we want to define its movement. And this is similar to what we've done before with inter actors or movers. Is we want to define the initial position, which is here, so we'll add a key. And if we look now, you'll see that that is yellow. And then we want to scrub, and we want to move this across. And we want to, let me just double check my notes, make sure that we have the proper length on this, because we're going to do multiple things. We want to basically do the second key at 4 seconds. So sorry about that. So we will move the scrubber over to 4, and at this point we will add a key for that, and we also want to move the camera, and we want to move it all the way so it's pretty well up face to face with the bot. Is what we're looking at doing. I have it slightly off, but it's fine. So we have that all good to go. If we hit play, basically the camera will now scrub back and forth from the one point to the other point, so we know that we're kind of good to go with that. And at that point we can kind of leave that alone. Now the other thing we need to do is at this point, if we play it, the camera animates, but we're not actually part of the camera. So we want to right click and we want to add what's called a director group. And what you can do with the director group is you can define which camera. So we want to add a key at the very beginning of this, so make sure your scrubber is back to 0. And when we add the key, it's going to ask us what camera do we want, and we want to use camera 1. So now by default we have camera 1. That's going to be part of our cinematic for the length of the cinematic, which currently is set at 5. We'll add some other stuff later. So if I go in and I do play from here, sure get an issue with it popping when you have matinee open. Okay, so you can see all the assets are here. We go to move up, hit our trigger, and it goes through and it goes up to the face of the guy. Also, I don't know if you noticed, it also went through the screen, so we can go back and we can tweak some of those details. If I go back and I pull up my matinee, I'm back at the first, go highlight the camera and get the initial position and move that further over, so now it's not going through the screen, and it's closer to where we are. And now if we go to animate it, we'll get the difference working with it. Okay, so we got the director, we're setting that up, all those types of things are good to go. And at this point, now what we can do is we can start to animate things. So let's select the top block, which is right here. And now we're going to do, now this is an interp actor, a movie, and we're going to do what we normally do, where we're going to add a new empty group. And we'll call this upper lock. And then we want to add a movement track for this, and at key 1.5 or 1.5 seconds, we want to add a key which is its current position, and then we want to go 5 seconds ahead to 2, And at 2, we want it to basically, oh, wrong way, sorry about that. So let's go and pull this the other way. Okay, so we want this door to open, add a key, and now if we scrub this, it opens and closes. And then we want to do the same thing, select the lower lock, and if we click this, it'll snap the scrubber, which is handy so everything's lined up. You can see this is actually 1.5. But now we're going to do new empty group, cancel. Going to highlight the lower lock, new empty group, and call this lower lock, hit OK. And now at this point we want to add a key for this as well. Oh, forgot to add a track, movement, getting ahead of myself. Now we can add a key for that, and then let's go to here and make sure that this track is highlighted, and pull this back and off, and add that. And now we have these two elements, which let's just go and play it real quick so you can see what's happening. Wait, no, let me just close this out. It's kind of annoying that it kind of pops around, but sorry. Okay, so now we're in the space again, walk over, go up, switch our cinematic, go through, and we basically have the robot there that we end with and see. So the next thing we want to do is, in addition to the doors, we can also animate the other doors. So we'll open the matinee again and go around and just get this going. I know they've got a little window here. Should probably, let me just scale this down so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. And for the time being, we don't need the matinee. So let's go forward and let's go to this point. And at this point, we want to select the door, and we want to add a new empty group for that. And then we'll call this door. And there's actually multiple doors, but we'll change that and then add a movement track for that as well. Scrub it here and add a key, and then go to 2.5, and at 2.5 we'll just animate this up and out of the view and add a key there, so now that goes up. Now there's these other doors. You can keep on doing the same thing, adding more tracks, but for just the sake of time and clarity, we're just going to grab these tracks, and I'm not going to add anything to it. I'm just going to grab these objects and just move them off to the side so they're not in the way while we're doing this animation. So now we should have everything open up. Let's just do a build all, so we can kind of set up everything and make sure that everything's clean. And my camera's acting a little funny, and that's because I have to change the curve between the 2 points. I basically have a curved rather than a linear interpolation that's taking place, so that's why it looks a little off the way it is. I have to go in and change that. There's a built-in curve editor. So we're going to go through, door opens, and we go up to this guy and we'll take a look at him. So we're pretty basic, and we got those things set up, but you can see you can do a lot just with those things. Now the other thing at this point is when we zoom in and we actually go in, this bot is doing nothing afterwards, and we actually want to make it so the bot's dynamic. So we'll open up Matinee, make sure you have the bot highlighted, and we're going to add a new actor. Let's see, we're going to add a new thing, actor, wait a sec, actor destroy. And then it's going to ask us what item. We have this highlighted, right click, and we say we're going to add a new variable. So now we're saying we want to destroy the bot that's right here. And we do that when it's completed. So when the matinee is done, we want you to basically destroy this bot. And then what do we want to do? We want to replace it with a new bot. So then we want to go new action, actor, actor factory, and we want to create a bot that actually runs around. So we're going to do spawn actor, and we need to, the first thing we need to do is we need to tell it where. And at this point, let's grab the little path node of the apple. Let me make sure I got it. Yep, path node 16. Right click, add a variable for that, and that's our spawn location. So now it's going to spawn, but we have to tell it what to actually spawn or create. So if we go down and we look at some of the settings for this, you can see what factory type, and there's lots and lots of different types. We just want the Unreal Actor Factory AI. That's all, and basically that creates an AI character. And then we also want to tell it what class, which is basically what subcategory, and we want to do a pawn, which are basically what the bots are. And we'll just call this robot, which is the name it'll display when you play it. And now if we go to basically play this from here, do the same thing again, go over, go up to the step, go through our cinematic, move, and then when we're done, we go back, and there's but it's not doing anything. He's just bobbing up and down. And that's because the AI doesn't quite know what to do. We want a toggle on force deathmatch AI, which means it'll come after us. And the other thing we also want to do is we want to give it default inventory so it has a weapon. And you need to turn on both of those in order to make sure that everything works. And then also the other thing that I'd recommend doing is just doing a build all with the paths, because you're using a path node for this and the bots, so you kind of want to make sure that everything's clear and the bots know where to go and what to do. It's not necessary, but it's just something to kind of just use to double check should you get an error or something. Now when we go to do play now, go over, go to hit, camera goes through, it opens up, we're done, and we get fired. So the problem is he's firing a little too quick. So if we right click where it says spawn actor, we can do set activate delay. And a delay of 1 second is enough, but now what will happen is we'll have a second to see what's happening before it fires. If not, you basically run the risk of getting shot before you even have any idea what's happening. So with this new bot, well actually the new bot we're done with at this point. So we want to go back to actually the old bot, the one that's currently in the scene. And what we're going to do is when we zoom up to it right now, it's not doing anything. So we're going to try to add another matinee track. And this one, we want to make sure that's selected. We want to do a new skeletal mesh group. And this is going to be, we can just call this bot actions. Okay. And let me zoom down so you can see. So basically we have two things. We have movement, which is actually moving it around, and then we have animation. We're going to do animation for this, so he's basically going to stay put. And we'll do our first, we'll bring up our first animation at 2.5. And when we go to add a key, it's going to say, oh, I forgot to do one thing. Sorry about this. Let's pull this up, and animation bot actions. We need an animation group, which are basically different pre-made animations that are bundled together. This is how characters work, and right now we don't have anything loaded, so no matter what we choose, we're not going to get an option. So we got to go back to the content browser, and let's go to all and clear this out, and go into characters, and if we go choose skeletal mesh, oh wait, not skeletal mesh, animation set, sorry about that, you'll see there's a base male, and that's pretty well the only one that comes with it. All the characters basically use the same pre-made animations, it's just they look different because they're different characters, but it's all the same. And we want to add that and load that up. And now if I go back, let me make sure I have the bot selected, yep, and I go back to animation, and now I go to add a key, it's going to ask me which animation sequence I want. And the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to have it idle, so which basically means it's just standing. So this is idle ready still, so it's just kind of posing. And if we go up and we look, now you can see the bot's actually in this kind of stance. And then we want to go to 3.5, and at this point we want to add a taunt. And so we're going to add another key, and we're going to go all the way down to taunt. And you can see there's a bunch of these, and we're going to do slit throat. And hit OK, and now you can see that we get it doing that, and then we have our animation finishing at 5. So let's see what this gets at this point. Go back, play from here. Yes, I don't know why they have this set up the way they did. It's kind of annoying, but go forward, go through our animatic, doors open, all those types of things, and then he basically shows us, and then he fires at us. So the final thing we're going to add to this, just to add a little bit more realism, is actual sound. So we'll go back, open up Matinee, and I have it minimized, so there we go. We're done with Kismet. The only thing I can do with Kismet is kind of clean this up if I wanted to. The variables all kind of get squashed together down here because each time you add a different object to Matinee, you see it kind of gets a little bit messy. So if you kind of want to see what's going on, it's not major, but you can come in and clean that up and just kind of see what's going on. And the other thing you can do is you can give each of these a name. So if you want to say anything for object comments, so this is destroy, we can see skeletal mesh, but this is basically destroy, remove cinematic bot, and now you can see that it shows up the name. So you can go through, and then this one, the same thing, is create. So if I go all the ways down, create new AI bot. So, and that's the one that's actually fighting. So we can go through and do different things. You also trigger volume when you go up to the steps, etc. So let's go to Matinee, and we're also going to need the browser open at the same time we do this. And this all is from the director group. So we're going to add a new track to the director group that's called soundtrack. And this is how you can add sounds. Now, if I just go to scrub this to wherever I want, and I go to hit a key to add it, it says no sound cue selected. So I've got to go get a sound from the browser. So we'll go in, open up content browser. We'll limit this so we only see sounds, disable the other ones. And at this point, I'm just going to go to the top of UT3 sound, and I'm just going to do some quick searches. A underscore door. Let's see what we got. Door metal 3 start cue. That's fine. Oh wait, open. You can do whatever you want and experiment, but remember you highlight it, you double click it so you can see what's happening. So we now that we have that highlighted, and now I go to do a key, that sound is played at that time period. And now I can forward to 2.0. And at this point, we're going to add a elevator sound. So elevator stone. And then we will change, and we'll do a 2.5. We're going to do carbon fire. Okay, there's carbon fire. And add that. Oh wait, I don't want to do that. Zoom in, because now I have 2 on top of each other. Control Z. There we go. I actually want to forward this. Oh yeah, that's 2.5 to 2.5. Okay, so I had that right. And then finally, we want to go forward to 4, and we're going to make kind of a grunt. We're going to use a grunt noise for the robot to actually make some sounds. So we're going to go effort and go through, and this is like where you get your death sounds and those types of things. So we're going to do landing heavy, which is kind of a grunt, and add that. And now if we minimize this all out and close this out and do a build all, let me make sure I got this cinematic closed so I don't get that weird buggy error issue. Okay, almost done building. Close. And now there's a lot of tweaks, but now you understand the basics. There's also a whole system for animating, talking, and I mean you can just spend hours and hours and hours. You can choose the camera and the post-processing and everything. This gives you the basics. You just set up the cinematic. And now you hear the noise, and that's it.